There are large parts of Colorado where families simply can't find childcare, can't find it close by, can't find it when they need it. It was a problem before the pandemic, then it got worse. Our Nusha Roy looks at where this is happening and what the state is doing about it.
Along East Colfax.
Think about the groundbreaking that we had and really the joy that was there.
This plot of land will turn into affordable housing, and the ground floor will have affordable childcare.
I'm envisioning that we're going to have families who are ready to find a new place to live and ready to enroll their children in our center.
It's a vision for this neighborhood right now because this area around East Colfax and Yosemite is considered a child care desert. There are 760 kids under the age of 5 with 256 licensed child care spots and nearly half of the kids living in poverty.
It won't address all of the needs, no, but it's pretty significant.
Really makes me concerned about sort of what's the future for this map.
Melissa Morris with Colorado Children's Campaign believes the reality is the child care desert is actually more parched than what this map shows because of the pandemic. Everything highlighted in orange and yellow, which is a huge chunk of the state, shows a child care scarcity in Colorado. The bluish area shows adequate access to licensed childcare. Not good, but adequate.
Historically, people of color are more impacted by childcare deserts than disproportionately impacted by lack of access to licensed childcare. And so I think that's really important. And also low-income folks are disproportionately impacted.
The orange also extends into rural areas and some neighborhoods that are considered higher income, but there's still not enough providers.
Access to childcare really impacts women's labor force participation. Reliable childcare has long-term impacts on family mental health and economic prosperity.
But Morris is holding out hope that the dire situation is a wake-up call and that this could be a turning point in Colorado.
So Morris is particularly optimistic because between grants and COVID relief funds, $700 million have now come into Colorado to go towards this very issue. The state is also opening up a new office that would essentially streamline finding open licensed child care spots, working on a career pathway for early childhood education. Of course, that's going to include how much money people are making. And of course, all of this also talks about the support for other child care means, right? The grandparents, the aunts, uncles, and neighbors who are helping when a kid can't get into a licensed care facility. How do we support them as well?
I hope this doesn't get us in trouble with the bosses, but I know in a recent conversation when they asked us, what would make 9 News a better place to work? Somebody said, I don't know, childcare would be fantastic.
I think about it all the time. And you know, the advocates I was talking to today said, ever since the pandemic happened, that conversation has actually started to gain a lot of steam, right? Because you've got hybrid work, you've got people working at home, not coming into the office. So now you have the space for childcare, and it's something you can offer, employees as an incentive to come work for them. So there are businesses that are considering doing that.
I would rotate through a 9 News childcare office. I would happily work with children instead of politicians one day a week.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be fun. All right, thank you, Nusha. The University of Colorado visiting scholar who planned the overthrow of American democracy had himself an insurance policy. The January 6th committee provided evidence today that Professor John Eastman asked for a pardon from President Trump because Eastman knew what he was suggesting that they do was a crime. Eastman wrote the blueprint for Vice President Mike Pence on how to throw out the election results and keep Trump in power. Pence refused to go along with it. Trump told the mob on January 6th that Pence had abandoned him. The crowd stormed the Capitol, yelling for Pence to be hanged. Committee testimony today included the claim of an informant inside the far-right group, the Proud Boys, who said that the Proud Boys would have killed Vice President Pence inside the Capitol if they could have gotten their hands on him. Eastman's plan to stage a sort of self-coup in America to throw out the election and hold on to power was not legal, and that was according to Eastman himself.
Did John Eastman ever admit, or in front of the president, that his proposal would violate the Electoral Count
Act? I believe he did on the 4th.
A key question since the insurrection of January 6th is who asked to be pardoned for crimes they committed or planned to commit, whether any Colorado figures were on that pardon list. Today, we learned about Professor Eastman's coup insurance of sorts.
Just a few days later, Dr. Eastman emailed Rudy Giuliani and requested that he be included on a list of potential recipients of a presidential pardon. Dr. Eastman's email stated, quote, "I've decided that I should be on the pardon list, if that is still in the works." Dr. Eastman did not receive his presidential pardon.
When Eastman was deposed for the January 6th committee, he invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination 146 times. Guy from Nebraska pleaded guilty today to threatening Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold. According to court documents, 42-year-old Travis Ford from Lincoln threatened Griswold a number of times last August, telling her on social media, "Do you feel safe? You shouldn't. Your security detail is far too thin and incompetent to protect you. The world is unpredictable these days. Anything can happen to anyone." Ford also made similar threats on the Instagram pages of other Democrats in office, including President Biden. He'll be sentenced in October and faces up to 2 years in prison. Colorado's attempts to get greener have legislated changes for businesses and industries primarily. CDOT currently updating its 10-year plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Oil and gas sites must now meet stricter air quality standards. But not one of the new laws forced us to take environmental measures at home, which is why our Marshall Zellinger was so intrigued by the creatively worded handouts that have been showing up on doors in Lakewood.
With 300 days of it, okay, that's a myth. Still, selling sunshine in Colorado should not be difficult.
My husband and I just generally do not buy door to door. If we need it, we go get it.
Gail Cartwright lives in Lakewood and has been visited several times by companies soliciting solar.
I didn't have any inclination that it was going to be a have to do. It was just, this is going to happen, and you get to choose now or later.
She was given that impression based on the materials provided to her, a door hanger and a handout from vendors that set up solar installations. Let's look at the door hanger first, which spells Excel wrong. It's not a spreadsheet. The first paragraph states, certain rate increases will now be applied to those who have yet to make the switch to renewable energy. I know this isn't a truth test, but no, that's false.
This seems to suggest that a customer that has decided not to put on rooftop solars is somehow going to get penalized with higher rates, and that's not true.
Gene Camp is the Deputy Director of the Public Utilities Commission, and it's the PUC that approves or denies any utility rate increase. And those rate increases are not different for customers with or without solar panels.
So basically, there's no preferential or discriminatory rate treatment that's even allowed.
The other solar handout that Gail received references a 2019 state law saying it requires electric utilities to help homeowners convert to renewable energy. One section of that 64-page law gives customers the right to use renewable energy, which is what the company behind this handout is pushing, a sales pitch to have solar panels installed on your home.
These people have all been making it sound very urgent.
Putting solar panels on your home may be for you, but it is not required by the state. And if there is a rate increase, it applies to all customers the same. For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
Even though that rate increase is the same for all customers, your individual bill is based on how much you use and when you use it. The Public Utilities Commission regulates utilities like Xcel. Complaints about door-to-door vendors, though, they go to your local district attorney or to the state attorney general's office. Speaking of complaints, state may be dry, fire danger may be high, the official fireworks shows all over are getting shelved, but you know those roadside fireworks stands, they seem to be going strong. We've had a number of you reach out, and this happens every summer, about the fireworks for sale tents. And then there's this one. It's in Boulder County, right near where the Marshall fire is thought to have started back in December. Robert took these photos of the stand at El Dorado Springs Drive and South Foothills Parkway, and he wondered, do neighbors really need that reminder of the danger of fire in that location of all places? Well, you know the drill in our state. Fireworks that leave the ground are illegal statewide. Other kinds of fireworks like sparklers and fountains, those are legal to sell depending on your location and current fire restrictions. You'll often see a difference between cities and the unincorporated parts of county. So for instance, all fireworks are illegal within Boulder city limits, but fireworks that don't leave the ground, they're okay in Boulder County as long as there aren't fire restrictions. Boulder County just went into a stage 1 fire restriction, so that stand that Robert reached out about is going to have to temporarily close. Another example, down Littleton, fireworks are totally banned. Unincorporated Jeffco, legal if they don't leave the ground. Remember that truck and trailer that caught fire in a bike lane in downtown Denver last summer? It summed up drivers' overall attitudes, it seems, towards blocking bike lanes in Denver. Bike lanes? What bike lanes? That was back in August, but the image still haunts us through the magic of the internet. because the truck and trailer burnt out were removed from the street, but not from Google Street View, apparently. Of all days to take this picture, right? Next viewer named Rob noticed that the trailer is still there on Google 10 months later. A burning truck hauling SUVs, blocking a bike lane, and an image taken the same day that the United Nations issued a code red for humanity due to climate change and a day when Colorado was breathing in heavy wildfire smoke and ozone. We remember, and so does the internet. Performing artists who know that their work can trigger strong emotions also know they're not professional therapists, yet they're trying to help their audience deal with those issues. Denver sadly did not land a World Cup match today. Can't blame the altitude because Mexico City's higher and they made the map. Hey, speaking of that map, you see anything about Denver that looks off? School's out for the summer, so it's quiet on the Esplanade outside East High School in Denver. There's an HOA in Aurora that's considering beefing up security at community pools after some recent crimes in the area. This could include armed security officers hanging out at the neighborhood pool. A woman who lives in the South Shore community sent us this week, if she got the email from the HOA, says the South Shore Master HOA is, quote, contracting an armed security service contractor to help promote safe and enjoyable environment for our neighbors. We reached out to the HOA to see if they were really going to pay somebody to pack heat at the pool this summer. The HOA said they considered armed security of some type somewhere, but added that they don't think that it'll be necessary at the pool. But they said no decision's been made at this point. I couldn't hear her. Could you hear her? No, you couldn't hear her either? All right, that's just you and me again. Denver has been passed up to host the 2026 World Cup. Lost out to Dallas and Kansas City for games being played roughly in our part of the U.S. This is an odd development, though, considering what the FIFA announcer said on their broadcast today as she unveiled the host cities.
The power of football will reach every single corner of the continent, from the Rocky Mountains to Mexico's Caribbean coast.
I'm no mapologist, but I noticed that the World Cup host cities do not include any city in the Rocky Mountains or on Mexico's Caribbean coast. The only two places she mentioned, not included. Also, you'll note that FIFA's map shows Denver to be somewhere in Montana, Dallas is in Iowa, and Atlanta is in like western Tennessee or eastern Arkansas. I don't know. Map aside, bottom line, Denver doesn't get a World Cup match. Neither does Orlando, Cincinnati, Nashville, Pasadena, Edmonton, and Washington, D.C./Baltimore. Before anybody starts to dump on Kansas City because they beat us out for the World Cup, our Chris Bianchi, who is much more of a soccerologist than I am, says that KC is actually a really great soccer city these days. People are very into soccer there. Apparently, it is the rejection of Washington, D.C. that is the biggest surprise.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me now? Yay, I'm in the backyard. Yeah, we wanted to take a trip outside because it has been pretty nice. Of course, the heat is on as temperatures are back to about 94 this afternoon. Even hotter in northern Colorado off to the eastern plains in the mid-90s for us today. We do have a couple of isolated thunderstorms out there. They're primarily across far southeastern Colorado near Lamar. Nothing severe, but look ahead. For the next couple of days, this ridge of high pressure will just continue to amplify and grow. That just means we'll be tracking really strong southwesterly winds, helping to bring us the heat. I know it gets hotter from here. Plus, we'll be tracking some of that smoke and haze making a comeback. It already is here. This is our camera in Cheeseman Park overlooking downtown, and usually we get that great shot of the mountains, the foothills in the distance. Not the case today. Unfortunately, the smoke will be back as we look ahead through tomorrow afternoon into the evening as it really is settling in up and down the I-25 corridor. Unfortunately, tomorrow we do have a heat advisory up and down the I-25 corridor, I-76, I-70, looking at temperatures in the mid-90s, upper 90s to triple digits coming our way. We're going to be close to breaking that record. The record high 100 last set just last year. My forecast high 99, upper 90s and into the triple digits off to the eastern plains. We slowly cool off, but I will be bringing back a chance for a few thunderstorms over the weekend and into early next week.
We are not mental health experts. We are not doctors. We are not we're artists, you know, but everything is intertwined.
A performing arts center knows some of its work can really impact the audience, and not always in a positive way. So they just want to talk about it, like we aim to do here on Next. Teatro, the Chicano cultural group in Denver, uses art to deal with some heavy issues. Audiences watching stories of worker strikes, student protests, and immigration often see their stories on stage. That can bring up strong emotions. Teatro is prepared for that.
We are, after all, called Teatro, which means your theater. And this is another way for us to be your theater. The program that we're doing presently in connection with this production of Chicanos Sing the Blues, the program is called Drama v. Trauma. Bring a group of people together whom we feel might connect with the issues in a particular way and begin to deconstruct it and examine it. So the play is about a blues man. It deals with a lot of end-of-life issues, transitioning issues. There's also these generational things that are existent in the piece. Generational trauma caused by racism, caused by relationships with the police, marginalization, drug abuse. We focused in on a senior audience, a senior core, because we feel that those are the issues that might resonate the most with them. But those seniors are also coming together with this historical trauma that they're carrying with them. They're also brown people, people of color, who have specific experiences within this country, and those don't go away, and they don't go away from our stage. It's not a play that lives and rests in those places of trauma, but they're part and parcel of the storyline. And so people are able to connect and look at what their processes are for healing. You're not going to fix everything, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to heal what you can.
The first Drama v. Trauma program helped college and high school students work through a production dealing with Chicano displacement from the Auraria neighborhood. Tony says he hopes the next version of the program will welcome everyone from students to elders. It's a sign that the plumbing cannot handle everything you might send its way. That and feedback about my lack of maturity next. It's a sign that if you're flushing your future down the toilet, you need to do it somewhere else, Buster. A sign from the bathroom at Mr. Oso in Rhino. Our plumbing is very old. Please do not flush tampons, paper towels, tissues or wipes, hair or goldfish, hopes or dreams. Your future is bright. Best not let it go down the tubes of a bathroom in a taco joint, you know what I'm saying? Send us the signs that make you look twice. Maybe one that's even so good you snap a picture of it and email it to next@9news.com. You can always tweet us with the hashtag HeyNext on Twitter. That's how I heard from CK recently, who said, "Don't try to be funny. You're just a kid with little or no real life experience." CK, do not let my immaturity fool you. I am 38 years old. I am soon to be an unfunny middle-aged man with little to no real life experience. And Danny's not mad that Kansas City got picked for the World Cup instead of Denver. Danny writes, "Kansas City is very flat, which is ideal for soccer games." I know that's funny. I'm not supposed to laugh. We'll see you next time.